I met Leslie, who's one of my favorite humans on the face of the earth, when I was with my old career with EBTH and helped her personally with her dearest friends next door and had been in their home and just is an amazing human. So those of you that don't know her, she is a top agent at the Sugarloaf Atlanta Partners office, and has been so kind to come and share her amazing knowledge, because what she's about to go over is the biggest topic of conversation that everybody should be having right now. So, girl.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Have you ever woken up in the morning and felt like the devil was after you? Well, I didn't want to call you this morning and say I can't come, but I almost did. You know how everybody's mixing their cottage cheese and blending it with honey and fruit? Well, who knows what an immersion blender is? It's this long, kind of stick-looking blender, and it's got a little blade. A lot of people use it for soups. You hold it like this. Well, I was scooping out that very sharp blade, and I forgot I had my
That's
finger
how the
on the
Band-Aid
start. I don't know how bad it is. I don't know if I need stitches, but I was so busy trying to tape it up. So anyway, I'm happy to be here.
A finger made it here.
Thank you. Okay, so who knows who Jeff Foxworthy is?
Wow.
What is he known for? Who has the best, you might be a redneck? If I have a good one. Jim?
Might be a redneck if you pop a beer at a eulogy.
You might be a redneck if you attend, no, if your eighth grader attends your high school graduation. So I'm not gonna talk about that, but you might be old is what I'm gonna talk about. Because I've been in real estate a very long time. Been in real estate 39 years. You might be old if in this room you see kids that went to high school with your kids. Brittany. And there's a lot in this office. Katie, who just joined.
Yes, Katie Pollard.
She was younger than my kids. Justin, his baby sister was on Steve's softball team.
Brittany had a big crush on your son too.
Yeah.
He's cute. What can I say?
Carla was on the softball team. So anyway, I found this in the purse. I hadn't been using it in a while when I came. I don't know how much it's worth. It's 10 to 50. I can guarantee it's not 50. But if you can guess how many years I've been in real estate, closest person, Bob, do you know?
No, you
You do?
just.
Okay, how about this? How, way longer. Wedding anniversary am I getting ready to observe, celebrate?
42.
I love you.
51.
Anybody else?
Wow.
48.
Brittany, 50.
Well, just a little quick math.
Did it say?
Andy is.
Exactly. That's what happened in my head.
Yeah, and he's getting ready to celebrate his 25th high school reunion. It's hard to believe. I know I'm not that old. You're not that old. Okay. That's enough about me. Let's talk about pricing. There's a graph, and thank you so much. She's amazing, Lexus is.
Yes,
For getting all this together for me at the last minute, I might add. There's a graph I want you to put up, the one that I sent about,
Is it this one?
yes. I got this the other day. Read that. There are nearly 500,000 more sellers than buyers. Does that seem like it happened overnight?
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of like 2009. Many of you weren't here then, but let me tell you, that was a nightmare, wasn't it, Bob? So because of this, what's happened to our market?
Become a buyer's. I saw yesterday there are 1.9 million sellers and 1.5 million buyers,
Okay,
33% more.
right. So it's different in different neighborhoods, different areas. But the bottom line is, we're seeing a lot more actives that are staying on the market now, aren't we? It used to be there'd be like one or two active. Oh, Chelsea, yay. Yeah, we had like a few, sometimes no actives in a community, right? But now I'm seeing that list grow. And so days on the market is growing. And as you know, days on the market is acid to a listing, isn't it? Because what do buyers look at when they're looking at homes? First thing they look at, days on the market. So let's go and find out, how would you feel if you walked into a listing appointment and you knew where it needed to be priced? Now, convincing the seller is another thing, but if you knew and you had confidence about that, you might have a chance of getting that listing.
If you can share that, that would be very helpful.
Well, you know, my coach
I'm on the
yesterday,
right right now.
I did share this week to my two sellers that aren't selling. But my coach said yesterday, you know, how many of you are doing a 7-day market update with your sellers? You should be. What that looks like is, you go to FMLS and you go to active under contract. What's next? Pending, all of them, and go 0 to 7 days or 0 to 14 days, whatever it is it's been since you've connected with them, and pull up in their area all the things that have happened in 7 days. That educates them on the market, and you too, it keeps me up to date on what's going on in that area. And you'll see what pendings went under contract while theirs just came on the market. What are they picking other than yours? The other thing he said, share doom and gloom every 3 weeks, and I think more often every other week. This is doom and gloom. Don't overwhelm this, but let them know. If you don't get your house priced right, you could be the one sitting on the market. So yes, Bob, I advise sharing that. I hope it's a reliable source. I don't know. It looks reliable, but what's interesting is, let's see, what does it say? You know, what they're gonna read is it's a buyer's market. And we've been saying it's a balanced market. Honestly, I think it's shifted. I don't think it's balanced anymore. Okay, let's go to the slides. Okay, so how many are fairly new agents in here? We have fairly new agents? Okay, I know a lot of you are very seasoned. So you may not learn a lot, but I hope so. You always want to have a pre-qual conversation. You know, back in 2020, 2021, 22, 23, you could just walk in unprepared, kind of stab at a price, not do a pre-qual. We got really lazy, didn't we? I did. Can't do that anymore. We have to get as much information up front when we go in. And if you will click on here, Lexus. And some of you, I don't know, did everybody get printouts?
Yeah, they're on the
Okay.
desk, they're on the table.
So I'm not gonna go over all those because this is an hour-long presentation and we have probably 40 minutes by now. But I'm just gonna challenge you
They're on the
to
table.
ask each question on the pre-qual. You know, in the past, I would be like, oh, that's a little uncomfortable. I don't want to ask that question. Ask it. You need the information. Are you going to be interviewing more than one agent? And who might those agents be? You know, ask all the questions. How much do you own on a property? I didn't know I had this in the packet, but Bob told me I did, so I didn't remember that I had this. But this is a seller's net sheet. So you need to know what they owe. That's one of the questions, so you can fill this out properly. Again, we can get lazy and not do this because we're assuming sellers have a lot of equity in their homes right now, right? What if they refinanced and pulled money out? Even if they have a lot of equity, they need to know a net and what they should walk away with when they sell the property. So take one of these, look prepared, look professional.
We're gonna post all these as a PDF on the Facebook group, so there's only one per table, so everybody's gonna get one.
Okay, enough of that. How many questions you gonna ask?
All of them.
All of them, thank you. You're gonna make notes of all the descriptions of the house and especially updates. Why do we wanna know about updates?
It helps provide you, it helps sellability.
What houses are selling on the market now?
Move-in ready.
They're priced right, the ones that are remodeled, because they'll pay more for those remodels, won't they? So that's very important. All right, stats. We talked about, Darren and I talked about this. Now, I'm sorry, my girl that does this wouldn't respond to us today or this week. But know your stats. Know how many days on the market, what you got over list, under list, so that you can help them understand that pricing it right sells it quickly. And many times gets them more money, right? What's the goal in listing a home?
It's all,
Getting sold.
most money.
We spend time.
Getting at least how many offers? Getting at least 2 offers. Is that called multiple offers? They don't have to know how many offers you got, but yeah, you got multiple offers. If you have 2 offers, then you can start competing, and that's when you get over list. Okay, if you don't have stats, use your offices, right? Okay, let's go to the next page. All right, first thing you do is pull tax records. What does that tell us? Is it always the truth?
No. I had one recently that I did a market analysis. I went in there and I walked around and I thought it felt bigger. It was 500 feet larger than Texas.
Okay, where do you pull tax records?
You pull from EIS, tax assessor's office, FMLS, MLS.
I don't know why, I've always found that CRS seems to be the most accurate to me. You know where that is?
It is.
That's, if you'll pull Georgia MLS, we should have that up. I don't know why it is, but we're getting very confused about finished square footage, basement, upper floors. Are they combined? Are they not? I think you have to be accurate. You have to divide the below ground and the above ground because they're not equal in price value, are they? A lot of agents want to combine it and say there's 4,500 square feet in this house when you know that house has got a finished basement and it's included in that. And what I have found with Zillow, we'll talk about Zillow in a minute, is Zillow's combining the square footage. So if you got a home that might be nicer than the neighbors, but the neighbors has got a finished basement, Zillow is using that square footage to give value. You don't need to go in, but there is, back there. Okay, there is a CRS tab in Georgia MLS, and it will give you the breakdown of square footage. Just compare it to Realist. Sometimes they're different, but
Super easy to use too.
I rely on that one. Okay, let's go. And like you say, it's not always accurate, is it, Julie?
And builders and the tax assessor's office are usually a lot different.
All right, what was that? Okay. Here's an example. How many pull Zillow and take it on listing appointments? You should.
Yeah.
You should. Why should you? Why is that
That's what
important?
your buyers were looking
Yes.
at.
Because seller knows it. I kind of had not a conflict, but a conversation with one of my sellers. He said, I believe Zillow said it was 575. I said, well, I may be wrong, but when I looked at it, it was 557. So looking it up while we're talking, he said, you did your homework. You're right. What I'm seeing, gang, is Zillow. I mean, I said this like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Zillow's getting pretty accurate, but what I'm seeing now is Zillow hasn't caught up with our market. So I think they're high. I just pulled this as an example. This was one I sold, I don't know, several months ago. Zillow gave it a 524 value. The house was a mess. We had a deck. I'm embarrassed to say I listed this house, a deck that you couldn't walk on. It was so dangerous. We had to put tape around it. But the people had absolutely no money. And then we said, oh, Renovax, y'all, what's it called? Renomax. They come in, and there's several companies that do this now. They come in and make corrections and charge you at closing. So there was no money up front, but it ended up selling. Anybody want to guess what it sold for?
24.
Where's it at?
49.
Oh my,
Look how wrong that was because they hadn't been in that mess. They didn't know what that house was like. So be careful with Zillow. Okay, we can move on. You know, I used to use this. I don't use it as much, but it's still a reference point. Let's see what they said about the same house. RPR, are y'all familiar with that?
Yes.
They were actually more accurate than Zillow. And honestly, if it's way off, would you bring it? I don't, yeah. I don't want to put it in their mind that the house is worth more, that they think it's worth more. Just another reference point. It said if relevant, use it.
It also had a range of $100,000 in there. I think it said,
Huge.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so you guys, I rode by Beaufort City Schools today.
$60 million
Oh my
stadium.
gosh. This is such a prime example why school district is so important. What an amazing facility that is, isn't it? So I always start with school district, and if you can start, you can press. I love that you're doing this for me. Thank you. If you can start, one more. Small and go big. Narrow and expand. I always start with elementary if I can. And someone in my last class says, why don't you use the map search where you put in an address and do a certain circumference? And I thought, well, you know, I never do that. Maybe that's a good idea. And then I later thought about it. Why is that not a good idea? Especially in Beaufort. You could put a mile radius, right, Justin? And it may pull up Beaufort City Schools, and then it may pull up the county schools, and they're not gonna be equal, are they? So if you asked me that today, I'd say, no, don't use that. Use the schools. And obviously, if you have enough in a neighborhood, I used to do this. If you have enough in a neighborhood, use it. But are people just looking in one neighborhood when they search?
No.
Typically not, are they? They're gonna look around it. So I don't always use comps just from the neighborhood anymore. Okay, you obviously want to look at features that are like the subject property, finished basement. Is it a ranch, or do you use ranches in 2 stories typically when you're looking at comps? When we looked at your house, we didn't do that, did we? Because they were all ranches. Square footage, I mean, these are obvious things you want to look at. But the status is something, I mean, again, Bob, doing his homework, said, he saw this, he said, are we still doing 72 sold? That was a long time ago. Well, I am. And I'll tell you why. It was a company that came into Keller Williams and asked Keller Williams to be a part of it. And it's a sales system is really what it is. I don't use everything, but this form, I think, is a great way to find comps. And it really looks at what is active. So traditionally, those of you that have been around a long time, how did we pull up comps? Julie, how did we pull up comps?
Well, we didn't have the internet when I first started. So we had books, we would
Right.
look at books and talk to people and things on.
Gail, how did you used to pull up comps?
I haven't been in it nearly as long as you have, Leslie, but.
That's reminded me.
Just go on FMLS and put in either neighborhood or zip code.
How about status? What statuses do you use?
Active.
Okay. So I believe this company was very influential in helping us do that, because in the past, we did what appraisers did. We looked at the sold data, we looked at pending. What do buyers look at?
Active, but sometimes active under, the other pending too. So active under contract.
Yes, no, I would agree with that, because that's very current. That is current.
The actives are what your competition is.
Yes.
So.
Yes, you want to price your property So it's so compelling against the competition that buyers are gonna make an offer on yours. Because that's what they're doing, aren't they? They're going in 5 or 6, maybe more now that we have more on the market, and they're comparing. So this form really only uses actives, and it has you locate 3 that are most like your property, and then if you put your property down here to price it. Okay, someone says, what price makes it compelling below the active? There's no rule of thumb there. It depends on the price point. But I would say, this really kills me when I see this. I see a house listed for 305, 405. What happens when you go over each 100,000?
You miss some searches for $5,000.
Right, you lose a market, don't you? Because people in their minds say, I'm not going above 5, I'm not going above 6.
But even 99, because if they're searching 300 to 400, they're not gonna find 299.9.
Is it better though to go lower or higher, Julie?
I'm right on the dollar.
Yeah. Yeah, if you think your property might be a few thousand over 100, scale it back, scale it back.
And when I'm searching, I'll go, if they say I want to do up to 400, I'll go to 405 or 410, just to make sure we're not missing some of those houses that are
Okay.
in the price.
Well, and the other thing that happens, let's say you're at 425. What are they comparing it with? Probably 450, maybe 475. You're not gonna look very good, but if you go below the 4, then they're comparing you with 450 up to 5. Okay, anybody have a format they take with them? A CMA format?
I mean, I have the same thing that I do every time, which is basically I have a comparison sheet on the front page. And then inside I've got their tax record, I've got a quick CMA on the subdivision, I've got printouts of the local comps. So mine's, and it's bound, so I mean, I use that if that's what you're talking about.
Right,
kind of
yes.
format.
I mean, can you take too much information?
Yes. I do a range, like until I get in there and I really see things and I listen to them, I'll have a range. So that if it shows better, I'm on the higher range, or less, or depending on their motivation, but I'll have a range.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know till you get in there.
Yes.
I disagree. I think you can't take too much information. Can you show too much? Yes. But if you have all the information that they may want to see with you, you have it there. How many of you use laptops or, of course, the younger people do. I went through that and I couldn't get Wi-Fi sometimes, or my battery was dead, or whatever. So I don't do that anymore. It's just easier for me to have it on paper. But Justin, you go right ahead. Oh gosh, we just went through that so quickly. How about that? Yes.
So, when you have a listing, unless, as time goes, do you have certain marks in time that you will meet again? Talk about doing the comparative analysis with active, or you've set the expectation for potential price reductions and things like that. Do you have kind of a timeline that you had in the
Yes.
beginning? Yeah.
How many of you have a listing that's over 21 days? What's due? What's due? Gail? You. But what's due on those properties?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Or I had one that they just wouldn't listen to me, and so I got them to repaint the inside, I redid the photos, and I'm withdrawing it and relisting, so it wasn't even price, it was more, they just needed to make it more appealing.
Right. And that's a great question, but I think it's always important at the listing agreement, even to write down on your contract every, whatever days you decide on. I think 21 days is a little bit long, but yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay.
I have a separate question.
okay.
So how do you handle a comp in a neighborhood that was bought at a distressed price, completely redone, brought up to HGTV level, and it's the only home in that area that's at that price and at that level of finish.
Is it under contract?
Oh, it's sold.
Okay.
No, it's,
Hey Jay, you just did it. You just did what you needed to do. Is explain that.
Yeah.
You just explained it. I mean, if I had been your seller, I would have believed that. I mean, most of the sellers have this information or have some information. It's how you interpret it, and the fact that you know about that is a factor.
It's right here.
Yeah, there you go.
We don't care what closed. What are they competing with? What are buyers looking at now in comparison to that house? That's what you have to look at.
And is it even really a true comp at that point?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
It's like a fire sale or a divorce sale. Or whatever.
There's always gonna be an outlier that you just have to ignore.
As long as you have others.
yeah, I'd love to process that because it's but that's helpful.
I just did a market analysis in my subdivision, which typically will sell in the 7s and 8s. And there's a guy in there that's got his house for sale for $1 million.
Mm.
Oh, I know what the deal is. If somebody give me $1 million, I'll sell it. So it's really not a comp.
Yeah.
It's an active listing, but you cannot compare that house to most of what's in the subdivision. It's just not a comp.
Outliers.
And when I go to your point a minute ago, you have to give them some, you said you use a range. You use a range. When I do my market analysis, especially if I'm pretty familiar, I will write my number on the back of one of the pages of my CMA. So I know there's no guessing. When I get there, I tell them I've got my number.
That's the last thing
What
you
do you-
turn over.
Yeah, and then I turn it over. So I'll give you an example. This house right here that we're doing today. These are friends of mine. I love them dearly, but they didn't listen to me. I told them when we listed it, that it should be at $695. They listed it $715, and we've been sitting on the market and they're getting agitated. And I said, remember my number, we're at $698.5 and we're getting traction. So it's like, you have the information, you just gotta be able to interpret the market.
So, Melissa, to go back kind of what you were asking about.
Yeah.
Many years ago, when I first started, I had a listing. And Leslie showed the listing and called me and said, hey, I showed your listing, can I give you some advice? Because it was way overpriced, but I was new and didn't want to tell them that it was overpriced. So she says, can I give you some advice? The answer is always yes, for the record. And so she says to me, if it's been sitting on the market for 10 days with and you tell me if these numbers are updated, 10 days with no showings, price drop. Can't remember the exact number that you said, but somewhere between 8 and 10 showings and no offers, price drop. Like, you're done. 10 days if you don't have a showing, your price way too high. And so we had gone, I think we'd been sitting on the market at that time, again, this is probably 8 years ago or something, but we'd been on the market like 15-ish days with no offers. And she called and said, yeah, because you're way overpriced.
Yeah, and I think if you send your weekly market updates, they're gonna self-discover. And to Julie's point, I had one on the market a week and I could tell, in 7 days, guys, if
Yes.
it's the right price. So we took it off, put it on hold, and that stops days on market. And redid some parquet flooring that they really loved. We put luxury vinyl, and I'm telling you, the difference was amazing. Had we had that in the first day. $3,900 it cost, and it was a lot of flooring.
And I just want to say, God bless you. Please, all of you who show houses, please listen to this. Give feedback,
Yes.
honest feedback, not just not interested.
That's what's helped me
Please
get my people.
Give feedback. It's really
I
critical.
mean, it's helpful, but I have a problem with people that get online, agents don't do this, and complain because nobody gave feedback. Guys, you're the expert.
Yes.
You know what the feedback would be,
Yeah.
right? Don't blame the other agents that they.
Oh, I blame them all the time. Here's the thing. What I want is, I want my sellers to hear it
Right,
Yes.
from
from
other,
the
I
other
agree,
people. Because
I agree,
those other agents have seen a lot of houses with these people.
Right.
yeah.
So I'm a new agent and I have just barely one listing and one coming to market. So my question is,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Not an old agents don't have
I'm,
that.
I'm very excited, but, so we've been on market, 17, 18 days. We've had one, offer over asking that terminated within 24 hours because they changed their mind about the basement. And we've had like 5 or 6 offers, but they're terrible, 30 to 50 grand under what we're asking for with 3 to 5 showings a day. So I feel, my opinion, but I'm new, so I'm trying to see what your thoughts are, that we're doing well, price fine for now. What do you think?
You're not.
You're
Okay.
not.
You're not.
Okay, that's why I just was,
You're not.
but everyone would say.
You should have taken one of those offers. You're gonna
Where's
kick
this-
yourself in another month.
Really? Okay.
So where's your listing?
It's in, Carnal Lake, in Duluth.
That's a lot of traffic right now.
It's a lot of traffic, yeah.
So you're saying.
So the market
market
is
shows
speaking to you. The market's
That's right.
telling you, boy, we really like this house, we like this area, but we don't like your price.
That's right.
The feedback is we like the price, well, not from the people offering, but other people, like, yeah, the price seems good, and I'm like.
And let me tell you, for me to
Exactly.
do, or my assistant to do a great job in a CMA, it's about 2 hours, guys.
Yeah.
You think an agent coming through and looking at your house can tell you if the price is right? I can't, if I give feedback, I don't know, they just didn't like the house, but I don't know if the price is right or not, because I haven't done the research.
The reason I like to ask him that question is because if these people, like I just was speaking to somebody a minute ago, this guy showed 5 or 6 houses to these same people in the same price point. And one of my questions on my feedback form, because I don't use the feedback form from
Right.
showing time, is how does this home compare to other homes you've shown this customer? And it helps me, but I get maybe 50%.
Right.
Response.
You gotta make it quick for me to respond. I'm not gonna write you a paragraph, but I'll say yes, no,
Yes.
whatever, or one sentence.
I will remember that, Leslie.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Any other questions? They're not gonna all listen to you, let me just tell you. But stand your ground, let them know, and I would even write it in the contract. Recommendation by agent is X. Because I always say to them, and I love what you were telling me earlier, I say, it's your decision, but I'm the expert. And I look at homes all day, every day, and I know pricing. So I would put that in writing somewhere because they have amnesia when you come back to it. One of the agents in here that has consistently a 7-day days on market doesn't take an overpriced listing. That's pretty strong. Because I said to one of my guys, you are really messing up my stats, It's not selling the way it needs to.
Yeah, because those were your stats that you put up there. Pull those up again. You know what sheet it's on?
Yeah, it's like.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Give feedback. I mean, because I feel like Bob was saying, an outside person, we're telling them all day long. But if the market tells them and another agent tells them it's overpriced or it doesn't show well or whatever, they sometimes tend to believe them over
Right.
us. They're.
Well, make sure at your listing appointment, you say to them, we're not gonna always get feedback, but if they don't choose your home, the feedback is they've rejected your
That's
home.
right.
They have rejected it for a better value somewhere else.
The actions are speaking louder than the words.
And I send it, they get copied on that, so sometimes that's not great.
I know,
Oh, yeah.
but it's true. Usually.
Well, that's why I do it, because
That's why
I
I
want
do
them
it
to
too.
hear it, not from me, I want them to hear it from somebody else.
So I just really I'm gonna look, because this is your list, like literally real time, right?
Well, it's not updated. I will tell you that.
Like in the last year?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just take a look at the list sale.
Man, you messed up on Little Lisa Lane, girl.
I'm like, they're all over at 100%, except for one.
I know she messed up.
Mess my stats up.
Yeah. So, and my point in saying that is that, I'm old school, like I talk about, I do a lot of stuff with paper and pencil, and I know like the laptops and all the widgets now are all great, and that's the younger generation is going to that. But at the end of the day, keep it simple, know what you're doing, know the market, that's the biggest thing, and right now, you have to know what's going on around you, because the market is going to scream and hit you in the face to tell you what the home is worth. This to me speaks that you know how to price a house.
Well,
This is
I
not
was,
your first rodeo.
I was doing the 72 soul method before most people were.
That's right.
But now it's caught on. You've got to look at actives and how does it compare? You got to price it low. And some people say, oh, you're pricing yours too low, but then it goes up and I get more.
There's a strategy.
Well, and here's the thing. Do buyers all like the same house? Most of the time they do. You'll see there's a tale of two markets. Bob, you remember this? Tale of two markets. You've got one market where things are selling the first weekend they're on the market and they're getting multiple offers. And then there's the market over here that the condition's not good, the price is too high. So yes, there are listings that are still, I'm still getting multiple on some of them. You know, people like updated, certain locations, condition. Don't just put a sign in the yard. You get a stager in there, you get it cleaned up. Sometimes I'm waiting months for my listings to come on the market because they're trashed and I don't want to list it that way. I don't want to sell it that way. And they'll get more equity out of their home if you guide them, if you help them paint. Paint is the cheapest fix-up there is. And flooring is not that bad. I mean, we did a lot of LVT in this house for $3,900.
We have a pay at close vendor that does all of that
Yes.
flooring.
Yes.
Y'all do too, same guy.
Yeah.
And that's what the corporate sellers are doing. It's paint, it's,
They are.
you call it lipstick on a pig, you call it whatever you want. But what happens is they go in there, they clean up the walls, they clean up the floors. That alone makes a dramatic difference in a house.
And here's what happened back when we were selling way overpriced. Sellers weren't fixing up their homes. We had 30 terminations in our office in March. And those houses are coming back on the market. The sellers didn't fix them. They bought them unfixed. But the buyers today are not accepting homes with repairs, big repairs that need to be done. So you got to talk to your sellers, you know, they need to make repairs. Do you do Sure Thing here? I don't want to.
Yes.
Yep.
Sure Thing, your vendor, okay. Well, they do,
Yeah, they're one of our vendors.
they'll do a $200 listing inspection. I think that's gold. So there's not any surprises when there's an inspection done. Yeah, we just cannot stick a sign in the yard anymore, guys. We gotta make these listings sparkle. And let me tell you what we did in one of our houses. I wish I had a picture of it. The old brick fireplace is out. I'm just telling you.
Paint them.
If you will whitewash that brick, I'm telling you, my painter charged $250. I was gonna do it because I thought it was so important. $250, it changed the whole living room. It's beautiful. Your painter may charge more. I'm just saying.
Any more questions?
Thank you so much, Leslie.
Thank you.